Central Senatorial District. He's our guest this morning, and we've decided that we're going to pick his mind because he's very, very current. He's on Twitter. I'll come to that. He's a man who can be serious, and he's also a man who can be light if that is what is required. I remember a recent tweet of his to, I think, a political associate, a friend of his, saying that you haven't tweeted in a while. Are there any difficulties with data? Should I send you some? That was hilarious. A fine morning to you, Senator Shehu Sani.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, now, there are there's so much going on, so we're going to sort of select them and sort of see what you feel about some of these ideas. And so I wanted to start off, if I may, with your impressions on the zonal formula for positions principal positions in the National Assembly. As you know, there are all sorts of speculations out there. Give me your thoughts on the whole idea in order to comply with equity and fairness.
Thank you for having me once again in your program. Well, from my own experience in the National Assembly and also in the political scene in the country, each time you have a new government, there will always be a restructuring of political offices that will ensure full representation and participation of all the geopolitical zones in the country. As we have it now in the country, from May 29th, 2023, we are going to have a president from the southwestern part of Nigeria and a vice president from the northeastern part of Nigeria. So it is logical and rational that the positions in the National Assembly should be used to balance the deficit or the inadequacy or the issues that have arisen during the elections. And that is the position of the Senate President should ideally go to either the southeastern part of Nigeria or the south-south. And then the speakership can go perhaps to north central or other parts of the country. There is no doubt about it. The hierarchy and organogram of government is very clear. If you are going to have the full participation of all the geopolitical zone as structured in Nigerian state, there is no doubt about it. We must use the issue of the zones and also take cognizance of other arisen religious or ethnic issues that may arise. Particularly the southeastern part of Nigeria that have always been crying of marginalization. And it is also a fact that is on the ground. We can't come out with a governmental structure with that part of the country being excluded. So I believe that National Assembly will first of all take cognizance of that and have the speakership and the Senate presidency zone and all other positions like the Deputy Senate President, Majority Leader, Minority Leader of the House and the Senate will all be spread to ensure full representation of all other zones. But most importantly, the President or the executive usually take interest in what happens at the National Assembly. If you remember what happened in 2015, the President was in support of Ahmed Lawan, but typical of the lackadaisical behavior, there wasn't so much thrust and intervention to ensure that happened. And as such, when it was left bare, Saraki emerged the President of the Senate. So it's also dependent on what happened. When the senators come and sit down, if there is interest from the side of the executive of where they want the Senate presidency and the speakership to be zoned to, the majority party, which is the APC, will take cognizance of that. And then they also have to ensure they have a united house, because if there are so many candidates that come out from the ruling party in both the House and the Senate. The minority party, the majority of them, which is the PDP, can exploit the situation and come out with one candidate that can get block votes of other parties and then emerge. And that is going to be a repeat of what happened in 2015. So who will become the Senate president and who will become the speaker? Yes.
Exactly. Okay. In fact, I was going to ask you, coming from what you said, some of you mentioned Saraki there, I'd ask you to sort of compare the Saraki-led Senate and the Lawan-led Senate, in your opinion, both of them being your former colleagues. It looks like it didn't get across. My question didn't get across. I was asking if you would compare, for example, from your point of view, the Saraki-led Senate and the Lawan-led Senate.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, the character, the behavior and the pattern of every National Assembly is dependent on the leadership of that National Assembly, and that leadership is dependent on how they emerged. Saraki emerged a president of the Senate as a rebel, one that was not in the good books of the president. As such, because of that, the whole 4 years was one of holding the government account, and also we had for ourselves an image of being belligerent or combative. And the Senate, the Lawan Senate, also has its root in the fact that he was a favorite of Mr. President, and that they never hide their character of ones that are ready to do all the biddings of the president, and as such, they earn for themselves the label of being a rubber stamp. So the Saraki Senate and the Lawan Senate are opposite of each other. In our own case, when we were there, despite us coming from the ruling party, but the way Saraki emerged is in such a way that it's like a hostile takeover. And throughout the 4 years, there wasn't love lost between the government and the parliament. But in the case of Lawan, Lawan became the Senate president with the blessing of the president, and he cannot afford to do anything contrary, for the fact that that became the reason why almost the federal government, the executive arm, almost gets everything passed. Whatever they take, it has been passed. Whoever is nominated, he is being passed, except for very few cases. So this is the difference. When you have a Senate of our own, the positive side of it is that we will hold government to account, we will perform our oversight function, and we will defend the sanctity, we defended the sanctity and independence of the National Assembly. But the negative side of it is that many of our bills end up not being passed, and many things were stuck because of the frosty relationship that existed between us and the executive. And then for the Lawan Senate, the negative side of it is that they end up approving everything, loans, appointment, even people who are not capable, and everything gets through. And as such, they couldn't even earn the respect of political appointees. Sometimes they would invite them, they will not come. And when they come, they become so arrogant. And as such, that independence, that sanctity of the National Assemblies as an independent arm of government was compromised. But the positive side of them is that they almost got all their bills being passed. That is the petroleum industry bills and so many other bills, which we couldn't get passed because of our relationship. So these are the positives and negative sides of the two National Assembly if at least I'm able to make
Okay,
a
so
point here.
following from that, Senator, what kind of National Assembly, especially Senate, but really National Assembly, do we then require? The executive branch is one thing, the legislative branch is another. They don't necessarily need to be at odds with each other, but still, give me your thoughts on the ideal kind of National Assembly that Nigeria requires at this point in time.
Well, in the history of Nigeria, this is the first time, maybe from 1979 or 1999, that we are going to have a president who also have experience of the National Assembly, being a senator. And that experience will help him in knowing the challenges that he is likely going to face if the issue is mishandled. I can remember vividly in the build-up to 2015 National Assembly elections. We were there with Aswaju and other elected senators when the issue of who is going to emerge, the president of the Senate, is concerned. And he tried to intervene, but because he wasn't in charge and the other side were not so firm and strong. And then the goal was scored against the president. But this time around, I believe his experience will help him. And he knows that he can't implement any policy and program if he doesn't have a National Assembly that is in sync with him. But the kind of National Assembly that is needed in the 10th Senate will be a hybrid of the 8 and 9. One that is able to defend the sanctity of the National Assembly and maintain its integrity as independent arm of government, and at the same time with the executive to see that their bills are scaled through. If they shift to our side, then there is going to be a combat for 4 years. If they shift to the side of Lawan, they are simply going to be another rubber stamp for the next 4 years. So we need to have, especially with the kind of challenges we have in the country today that is more grievous than the one that was during our own time, the need for them to work together, because working together should not be about the parliament being subservient or being enslaved by the executive arm of the government. So, but we will know all these things only when those that have won election have taken their seats, and then we know the character of the current National Assembly. But it starts with who becomes the Senate President, who becomes the Speaker. The character of the Senate President and the Speaker will determine the kind of people that will be elected in the sub-positions. If you can recall from 1999, during Obasanjo's time, there have always been problems with Ewerem, with Wabara, with Kadibo, with Ayum, and Innamani. So many. So if you don't get the leadership of the National Assembly right, then the crisis begins from there. And I think, I believe that he's experienced enough to know that. And if he doesn't have the kind of people that are in sync with his own ideas of what government is, I think the problem will certainly begin from that point.
All right, then. Thank you, Senator. As I said, our main objective today is to pick your mind on far-ranging subjects. So let me ask you, of recent, the former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, now known as, now addressed as Khalifa Sanusi II, he had said that he pities the incoming president, and I wondered, this was a question I could ask you. When he says he pities the next president, and I don't think the president-elect had emerged then, what would be your guess as to the thoughts going on in his mind when he said he actually pities the next president? Is that a pointer to the multiplicity of problems? Because if you like, you could look at it at the same time, but I was going to ask you following this, what are the four main areas that you would select the incoming government should focus on?
Well, before I make points on where he should focus on, I have to also buttress the point of the former Avia by emphasizing on what the next president, which of course is Aswaju, is going to face. The first problem he's going to face is a divided nation divided and hostile along religious and ethnic lines, which of course he has a duty to ensure unity and stability. The second is going to inherit a serious, badly managed economy with high debt and other issues that are associated with it. And then he is going to inherit about 133 million people that have been officially declared as living below the poverty line. And he's going to inherit the problem of insecurity, which has not been solved in the last 8 years. And he is going to inherit the need to continue to reform our electoral system, the point that the problems that we face today they address. Now, having said that, what should be his focus as a president? I think the first should be security. Terrorist attack in the northwest and northeastern part of Nigeria is continuing. They keep on slaughtering people, taking hostages, and that has become the identity of our country today. The next he is going to address is the economy of the country. What should he do about oil subsidy? For now, the federal government is finding it even difficult to pay salary. Will he be able to maintain the staff strength of the federal government and other issues? Will he cut the cost of governance? Yes, he has to. And then a mounting debt. Our debt, both foreign and local now, is over $100 billion. So what will he do to address it? And the fact that statistically we have what will remain out of it. He is going to inherit a burden of oil subsidy. For over 30 years, government after government have tried to remove oil subsidy. But the consequences of protest and the social uprising that was being feared became the reason why government after government that became impossible to achieve. But I have heard it. He was being very blunt during his campaign that he is ready to dare the lion. Well, we will live to see that, but I believe that he has to implement, pushing in programs and policies that will ensure that takes place. Another thing which the Senate President should focus on is agriculture. We have seen all these interventions by MFLA has not produced anything. Closing the borders, the Anchor Borrowers Program, the so-called right pyramid, which we have seen, have not stopped people from importing food and has not bring down the price of food. So that is a very wrong agricultural policy. We need to have a Minister of Agriculture who knows things about agriculture and not have a central bank that is almost involved in everything from bridge construction to health to energy. They have to be limited to what they should do on monetary policy. And I think the last thing you should focus on, or one of the most important things, is education.
Okay.
ASU has been on strike for so many years. Our education system is bad, and it has been neglected over the years. So the next president should make that a priority. And I think the danger of it is if you make so many things your priority, you will not be able to achieve them. So at least there should be targets of what you want to achieve in 4 years, and then work hard to achieve.
Okay. And I suppose all of this, what Khalifa Sanusi II is saying that he actually pitied whoever was coming along to confront all of these issues. Okay. I think it must have frozen again. Maybe I should just go on a break, and when we come back, we'll also include your calls. Stay with us, please.
Lagos is the most visited state in Africa as the fifth largest economy on the continent. Covering the state and its government is no mean feat. It's a busy beat. We go beyond the curtain of tapes to traveling far into the deep.
I want to thank the Lagos state government for the healthcare facility.
To bring stories that
a greater Lagos shall be ours.
we tell you stories that define our collective well-being as Lagosians. I'm Adedoja Salamadini. I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
Politics is defined as getting what, where, when, and how. But in the mix, many things come to play to shape the political fortune of any country. From the happen to engage us in constant conversation.
That's what we're looking for. Not some people who are talking about ethnicity. No.
Who is on your mind?
Don't worry.
Join me every day on Politics Tonight, where we dissect issues that shape our political destiny. Politics Tonight, weekdays on TVC News.
Okay, welcome back. And our guest this morning is Shehu Sani, author, human rights activist, former senator representing Kaduna Central Senatorial District. We're picking his brains, as it were, on a cross-section of Nigerian issues. And necessarily, it will lean a bit towards, our concluding the elections and moving towards the 29th when the president-elect, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will be signed on. Indeed, we've been asking a few questions that actually will be front and center on the new president's desk. And we've heard from Senator Shehu Sani that as far as he's concerned, security, economy, agriculture, and education would be the priorities. And there was a freeze when you finished saying that. I suppose because these are big issues, and you yourself had alluded to the danger or difficulty in focusing on such humongous issues, do you think that has any bearing on what I asked the question earlier of the former Emir of Kano, now Khalifa Sanusi II, what he meant when he was saying that he actually pitied the next guy who came along to be the president?
Well, I believe the experience of Sanusi as an economist and a banker informed his analysis and also conclusion. There is no doubt about it, it's not going to be a tea party for the next president. Taking cognizance of what has happened in the last 8 years. If he is going to inherit a country with such a mountain of debt, and the fact that many projects and infrastructural development are dependent on foreign loans, which of course some of our creditors or lenders have started turning their backs on us. Certainly there is going to be a problem. And it is only when you fix the economy that you will be able to get the resources and they will implement your program. If you have a government now that has failed to implement the rationalization of federal ministries, departments, and agencies from about 800 to be reduced to about 300 or something of that nature, the Orosai report. The next president will now have to do it, and that will have to involve laying off thousands of people, and you should know that it will come with a cost. And the next president said he is going to remove fuel subsidy, petroleum subsidy. And to do that, certainly you know he is going to come into open confrontation with the labor, the civil society, and the populace who will struggle to survive through high cost of living. That is also a challenge to him. And terrorism and banditry in the country has always been also an issue that has defied solution under this administration, despite trillions of naira being pumped into defense and security. He will also be judged by that, whether he can solve all these problems. I think Nigerians will understand if a leader doesn't portray himself as a magician or a messiah that have the solutions to all problems. If you present yourself as a servant that is ready to lead and to serve the country and carry people along, everyone will understand. But if you say you can solve all the problems of Nigeria, everyone will become a spectator and watch you solve it. And if you fail, certainly you will suffer the fate of your predecessors. So it's not going to be a tea party. There will be a lot of problems for the government and also for the people in terms of implementation of those reforms. So this is natural. But the earlier, the better. If you hit the ground running with your reforms, and there are time limits to which these reforms will take place, and the dividend of the reforms will be enjoyed by the populace, that will be better. But if you go on a late mission and then go on an endless reforms that produce no result, you're simply going to find yourself in the same situation which the present government has found itself. And that will begin by ensuring that your team are people that have the knowledge, the experience, and that are also going to be dedicated to solving the problem. If you win election and then your first point of interest is appeasing those who supported you to be there.
I'm sorry, I must interject in that, but it's at which to sort of interrupt you. So, Mr. Joshua Inire-Walide, good morning, and thank you very much for holding on for that marathon length of time. Go ahead now, please.
Thank you very much, and my greetings to the Senator. Uncle Yori, that executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government are, to me, Siamese twins. They are supposed to be working together. There's one question you put to Senator Sani, and that is between Saraki, a comparison between Saraki and Lawan. And he answered it very well. But as I'm sitting now, I'm struggling to actually remember what their own tenure of office achieved. I could look at Lawan and I'm seeing local government autonomy. Recently, there's this the passage of the assent of the president to the bill, empowering states to generate and distribute their own power. So many things have been achieved by the present Senate. I can't remember what they achieved. So that arm of government, Uncle Yori, the president-elect and the people around him, should take note that it does a lot more harm to governance than we have given attention to. There's no amount of competence that a president has. If he doesn't have the lawmakers on his side, so to say, right, he cannot succeed. Once you are in government, you are no longer a critic. You are already part of the system making things to work. So I expect that this legislature should be one that will be in tandem, that will be the one that will work with the program of the party to achieve what will move the nation forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Joshua Inire-Walide. Senator, earlier you were in speaking about the areas of focus that you would recommend. Security was among them, and in your home state of Kaduna, the killings have sort of resumed again. There's terrorism and banditry. You've touched on that in passing as we're speaking. So this is a problem that has been sort of resistant to solution. How optimistic are you that fresh legs, so to speak, using the soccer analogy, might make a difference in this worrying problem?
Well, first of all, I will give a little answer to the former caller.
Sure. Okay. As to what
we have achieved
your Senate achieved. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Well, if the Lawan Senate has achieved more than us, then nobody could have said that the next Senate president is going to will be pitied with the kind of country which he is going to inherit. First of all, our Senate prevented the executive from piling up unnecessary debt, which certainly is going to be a burden for this country. Our Senate performed our function as a parliament by holding the executive to account and performing our oversight function, which is what is the very fact that you will have a dictatorship in the country, and that is it. Now, if you are talking about Kaduna State, Kaduna is part of the northwestern state, and we have the problems of banditry and terrorism for many years now. And the killings in particular southern Kaduna has been more grievous. Not that there was no killing in the Muslim part of northern Kaduna, but the fact that the ones in southern Kaduna is peculiar. They kill people, they burn down houses, they rape women, they attack churches, and attack people irrespective of where they come from the southern part of the country. Why people hear more about it is that the elected representatives from the southern part of Kaduna, they are political leaders, they are traditional leaders, they are religious leaders, are vocal in telling the world, this is the situation of our people, come and see. As for the northern part of Kaduna, Muslims are also being killed. Their homes are being burned down. Their women are being raped. Even 2 days ago, it happened in Binningwari. But the elected representative from the northern part don't want to be seen making this public because they don't want to upset the state government, or they don't want to be seen to be embarrass the government. So the religious leaders and also the political leaders, they choose to remain silent in order to protect the image of the government and the system. Not that our people are also not being killed in northern part of Kaduna. So the world only have one side of the tragedy, because the leaders from that southern part of the Kaduna state are telling the world what is actually happening, while our own prefer to hide our own tragedy, which is also a very big mistake. Apart from me, I can't remember any senator from northern part, or any reps from northern part of Kaduna that has stood consistently in the National Assembly and tell the world that our own part, we from the northern part of Kaduna, are also facing the same problem. And for that, I also had my problems with the state and other people who felt I should also keep quiet, which I cannot. The solution to the problems are not that very easy, because to solve the problem with Kaduna, it has to be done on a regional basis. Because if you send the Air Force to attack the terrorist camp in Kaduna without doing it in Kebbi and Zamfara and Sokoto state, they will move there, and when you are done, they will come back. Kaduna borders Niger state and Zamfara state, and all the states are almost hubs of terrorism and banditry. So if you don't address the problems of those states, our own too will certainly not be addressed. How do we go about this? First of all, the need to use technology. There is no hidden place in the 21st century for anyone. If our own security apparatus will use the necessary technology, these problems can be solved. You have to use local intelligence. Our own villagers need to be drafted. As much as many of them were informants to terrorists and bandits, we should also ensure that they are on our side to give us necessary and relevant information. Action also needs to be taken as at when due. Not when terrorists are passing through a village and they keep on making calls, people keep on making calls, and nothing happens until after an hour or two. Take, for example, what happened in the trains, the attack on the trains 1 year ago. In the 21st century, it is awkward to see terrorists waiting ahead for a train to attack without any information given to the authorities that such things are taking place. Even when they attack, they spend about 2 to 3 hours doing what they want to, and then they left. So
again, once again, it has happened, Senator. I beg your pardon, Senator. I've kept a viewer waiting because I was, my apologies to you, Reverend Dominic in Alimosho. Thank you very much for holding on, but the Senator was making some important points, and I wanted him to land on it. Please go ahead now, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Senator Shehu Sani. Honestly, I couldn't hear him because when he was talking, I was also trying to listen through my phone. I couldn't hear him. But I saw a picture which I'm concerned. Chief Yori, I'm no more concerned about who is Senate President. I've made my views known. And my views is what Joshua tried to recap this morning. That the ninth Senate, the 8th Senate, or is it 9th or 8th, which Sani and Saraki was a Senate President, that should not repeat again in the history of Nigeria. Because I rather believe and trust and love a robust Senate that will help the presidency achieve things. That the one that doing loggerhead. We have quarreled so much in Nigeria. We have fought so much in Nigeria. It is time and we have urgent needs to move forward in Nigeria. So I rather appreciate a robust Senate than the one that will be in loggerhead with the presidency. I'm sure you heard what I said. This why Joshua was difficult to find what they achieved because it was all quarrel. But I want to say this. Please, I want to plead.
Reverend Dominic, you faded out and we can't hear you anymore. Okay. Reverend Dominic, I'm so sorry you've gone. But again, we have heard what you have contributed, and I think it's sort of reflective on where you would have gone less. So thank you very much. Senator, you've touched on this as well. You've touched on security killings still going on in Kaduna and other parts of Nigeria, and in relation to Kaduna, you've sort of given the reason for it. The other thing, two things. Let me see which one. We've spoken about subsidy removal that the president-elect on the campaign trail had asserted would be achieved by his administration. Well, the campaign trail is one thing. Being in office is another. You've given some of the shall we say, flashpoints to watch out for, should he indeed intend to go that way. So let me just now ask you, what do you think of Nigeria's revenue in 2022? We are told that 96%, no less of that, has gone towards debt servicing. Can Nigeria survive with this kind of arrangement, in your opinion?
Well, it still goes back to how the government was run in the last 4 years. The very person...
Senator, I'm going to do it early. Senator, I beg your pardon, I'm going to do it early. I want to squeeze in Ada, who has called in from Jos.
Hello,
that will be our final call, so that you can also mop up her comment. Good morning, Ada.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Yori. Thank you for squeezing me in. Good morning to the secret senator, Shehu Sani. The politics of Nigeria has made him to be out of the whole equation. But all the same, no problem. Okay, now what I want to say this is that I don't envy the president-elect, The first challenge he will have is faced with his debt servicing. But having said that, if he's a visionary, I know him as a visionary leader anyway, and he's a strategic thinker. I know he will know how to go about it, especially if he blocks leakages in various ministries, stop oil theft, cut down the cost of governance, and and again, you see, I'm not laying so much emphasis on unity because Ashwaju is destabilized, and I know that within a couple of months, within 6 months, we'll be able to unite us. We put a lot of things behind us. But the only problem I don't understand is that why is it that this... Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ada.
Yes. Mr. Yori and Shehu Sani, please, can you explain to me why the federal government is talking about increasing salary and they are on their way out? Can't they leave it for Ashwani that is coming in? Why are they complicating issues for him, They're talking about grants from IMF or whatever. Why can't they leave those things for the incoming person so that he will now work in the team,
Okay, Ada, because of time, thank you very much. Well, Senator, you heard all of that. Now I'm in a quandary. Would you like to take on some of the things Ada said? Because we have something like 3 minutes max for everything.
Well, I've heard what Ada said, but my answer would be like this. The very person who will praise the Lawan Senate will be the very person who will tell you that Nigeria is managed badly now. It is still under the same Lawan Senate that we are now going to pay about 96% of our revenue to pay a debt. It's still under Lawan Senate that the CBN became a state within a state, where the CBN governor has become the emperor. He can do whatever he wants to do. That is not unimaginable under Saraki Senate. It's still the same Senate that 133 million people are poor. It's still the same Senate that over 52,000 people within 3 to 4 months were dead as a result of terrorist attack because people who are supposed to be held to account, they refused. So when you are saying that they have done and have achieved, do you want to tell me that what we are facing today in the country, that the Senate or the National Assembly is not part of it? They were part of it. Whatever the government does, they approve. And this is where we are. If they have achieved, then the next president of Lake will have inherited a paradise, but he's going to inherit the hell as far as we are concerned. So why is the federal government, according to the question of Ada, now embarking on things when they're supposed to simply walk towards handover? Well, it's what I don't understand. Some of these things are with good intention, but some of these things are simply late intervention, and some of these things are simply trap for the next president. Many of these outgoing governors themselves, you see them going to banks to collect money, you see them giving out contracts, you see them employing people into government. All is trying to make it difficult for those who are taking over. And I believe that at this time, the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration should not be thinking of sourcing for loans or implementing some program which they have not done so in 8 years. They should simply be working towards a transition and handover so that the next president can start from a clean slate, not create more problems for him and for the country.
You know what, Senator Shehu Sani, yet again, time has done it. Time has actually defeated us. There's so many other questions, interesting, that I would have elicited interesting responses from you. But we're going to have to leave it here for now. Time is a dictator. But I want to thank you very much, Senator Shehu Sani, for making time for us this morning. We really appreciate your coming on our program. Thank you very much. So that's our program this morning. Then please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye.
Following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. Do you struggle with having an active and healthy lifestyle due to your busy schedule? Do you find it difficult to make it to the gym? You want to improve your overall health, but don't know where and how to start? Medical experts agree that walking, running, and jogging are amongst the best ways to stay fit and enjoy a great active and healthy lifestyle. What if there was a convenient and affordable way to improve your health, improve your mood, and lose weight right in your own home? Introducing the SportX Digital Compact Treadmill, the compact foldable treadmill that makes being active and losing weight fast and easy. Just unfold it and walk, jog, or run while you watch your favorite programs on TV.